Here we go.
What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Hockeytown University podcast. I'm here with my host, Matt. How are you, Matt?
Just another day under the sun, buddy. Happy to be here.
And yes, sir. And we got a special guest today. What's up, Derek?
Hey guys, another day in paradise. How you doing?
Good. Happy hump day, everyone. What's going on?
Oh, not much. Just getting Valentine's Day plans sorted out. I had one restaurant that I called and set up a reservation 2 months ago, and I called them last week to check on the status of my reservation, and they said, "Oh, we actually don't take reservations, so whichever reservation you put down, it's not in the system, and you'll have to find somewhere else to eat." So thanks a lot for that. The restaurant is called Ottava Via in Corktown. If you're going there and you're planning to have a nice Valentine's Day dinner, good fucking luck to you, because it's probably going to be packed, and there's not a damn thing you can do about it. So I'm up Schitt's Creek without a paddle, because I don't know where I'm going to have my dinner. So wish me luck.
Well, good luck to you, bud.
Yeah, good luck, bro. I didn't have a situation like that, but I am definitely in a similar situation where I haven't really picked a spot yet, only because I do have a significant other who is a little bit picky on the choices of food that she eats and places that she goes to. So it's kind of weird just kind of like working with her together on trying to choose a place to go eat, considering that's typically the man's job to do all the work on Valentine's Day to make him feel special. So I'm trying. How about you, Derek?
Well, let me tell you, if you're trying to find a place right now that's fancy, you're fucked, because I called about 30 places yesterday. No, everything's booked. Everything. From here to Grand Rapids, man, booked.
On the day of, or are you trying to celebrate sooner?
Well, day of, yeah.
Oh, for sure. See, Alyssa and I have to work on that Tuesday, so we might think about trying to do something that Sunday since we both have the free time to do it. So I think you're trying to do the same thing, right, Leslie?
Yeah, basically. I mean, it was supposed to be Saturday, but I maybe it'll have to be Sunday. I don't know. Now, I do know that there is a restaurant that her dad likes to go to, and he's friends with the owner. So maybe that's an option. It's called, shout out to Norma G's in Detroit, like kind of between Detroit and Grosse Pointe. Delicious Caribbean food. Lester's the fucking man. Get the rum flight when you go and get some oxtail. Falls off the bone. It's delicious. Melts in your mouth. So maybe that's another option that we could do. I don't know. Might have to grease some palms and slip a couple 20s and some pockets, and we'll see what we can get done here.
Yes, sir, Mr. Leahy, Jim himself. All right,
boys.
What a great sponsor right there.
Yeah. All right. And enough of Valentine's Day talk. We're all here to learn and talk hockey. So let's go ahead and jump right in and let's talk about last night's game. A little bit of the recap against the Oilers. Red Wings ultimately lose 5-2 in a really overall chaotic game. Wings overall had way too many chances to bury the puck into the net. Granted, I will say 5-on-5, they looked phenomenal keeping up with the Edmonton Oilers. I don't think that the score really shows the effort that they put into the game. Granted that they did go 0-for-5 on the power play. That really sucks. But they did do a good job at closing down two of the best players in the league, and Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl, who neither one got, I can't remember if either one of them even got a point, but I do know that neither one of them got a goal. So
McDavid had an assist. I think he had a secondary assist.
Okay, yeah, so there's that. But, but the players that I do want to talk about, Larkin, Bertuzzi, and Raymond all had fantastic Corsi's forward. That was talked about on a Locked On Red Wings podcast earlier today. For those of you who don't know them, go ahead and listen to them too. They offer great Red Wings knowledge and information about past games and just hockey general information as well. So yeah, we're all about sharing the love around here at Hockeytown University podcast. So, but yeah, just want to kind of touch base on what happened. The first goal, Red Wings scored actually the first goal in the game, which was a nice play set up by Bertuzzi from behind the net, who gave it to Raymond, to Larkin. Larkin took it all the way down to the other end, who then somehow got it to Seider. Seider gave it back to Larkin, made a really beautiful pass over to Raymond, who then found Bertuzzi backdoor. So this is what we've been missing since last year, right? Like, with Bertuzzi out, not having that top line chemistry has really kind of hurt the Red Wings for the whole entire season leading up until now that we have prime Bertuzzi back. But I do want to hear from you guys. What did you guys think of the whole entire game in general, first period, all the players, before I keep going on my rant?
Yeah,
Let's start with you, Buster.
I think the game was very exciting and almost had like a little bit of a playoff feel to it. It was very fast paced, a lot of crazy action. It got very chippy. I think it was the end of the second period. We had that big scrum breakout between it was Hronik, I think, started it with Kane. I mean, Kane is just going to start a scrum whenever the hell he wants. It's what he does. That's why he's there. Um, I think overall they did play very well. I think they hit like 5 or 6 posts the entire game. So, if you have a few more goals go in, maybe you're losing 5-4 instead of 5-2. So, but yeah, overall, I was expecting there would be a little bit of rust to shake off after the All-Star break. We hadn't seen Red Wings hockey for about 2 weeks now, and as the first period went, it didn't look like there was any rust at all. It actually looked like Detroit was the better team overall. They were faster. They had more chances. Of course, they got the early goal, that vintage Larkin, the Raymond, the Seider connection, which we have been robbed of all season. It's very good to see that again. Hopefully, we'll see a little bit more of that as the year winds down. But I overall think that it was a pretty good showing. You can't win them all, but overall they did play good. There was a few defensive lapses that led to goals, but that's been an issue all season, and for being honest, it's nothing out of the ordinary. So I'll turn it over to you, Derek, and you can share your thoughts.
I definitely thought they did do very well for watching the Red Wings for the first time in a while, honestly. I kind of had a mini heart attack over it last week because I forgot it was All-Star weekend. So I was like, where the hell is all the hockey? But now I realize it was the All-Star weekend. But honestly, the way we're watching the team, it's not too bad right now. They're mainly doing all the little things right. But at the level they're at, it seems like we just got to start doing that production of the big things that you don't see like in Little League, AHL type stuff like that. It's the stuff you see in the NHL that makes a difference. And we're just not producing it as well. I can definitely see with Bertuzzi, though, he's doing, love him having back. Never thought he was going to be a great producer, but the way he just pushes himself, he's like that hard-earned, he will scrap through it type stuff right there. It's amazing to watch because it's like, okay, I can relate to somebody who's just literally pushing through everything, pushing through everybody. It's like, it doesn't look pretty at the end. Man has mittens of straight concrete. It's great. But man, he can put it in the net. That's the best part.
Yeah, and to kind of go off that, I love that you brought up Bertuzzi again. That seems to be the tone here. Going on with that, he for sure had one hell of a game. But I got to ask you guys, do you guys think that he can keep up this style of play, being the hard-nosed forward that he is, getting in front of the net, going into the boards, getting into those scrums that he did do this game? Because to me, to be honest with you guys, he really seemed to be the only one out there that was getting involved in those scrums, especially when Seider got called for that penalty for that trip on Kane and then came up to Kane because he was giving shit to some of the other players too. But I have to ask you guys, do you think that this is something that he can keep up for the rest of the season by the time the trade deadline comes, if he does get traded or re-signs with us? We'll start with Derek.
Go ahead, Derek.
Oh, sorry. But yeah, honestly, the way he's been playing the last few years, I can see him to keep it up, honestly. It's not that, he's pretty much up to him and his mindset. If he's going to keep pushing through, he knows he doesn't have the biggest talent out there. So he knows he has to compensate for being the strongest guy out there as well. And I think he will compensate for that very well the entire time.
Yeah, for his sake, he sure as fuck better hope that he's going to keep this up if he wants to re-sign in Detroit for long term. I know he's been wanting a long-term deal for a while, and this is how you get those long-term deals is you show what your game is and you make it consistent and you just do that the rest of the year. As far as the trade angle of it, I almost kind of feel like even if this is just like maybe a couple game stint where he's looking like this and he falls off the face of the earth, it's not the end of the world because you can still trade him just on reputation alone, and that's going to get you a pretty decent return. I mean, you see players get traded on reputation all the time, and it usually fetches a pretty good return. I mean, just look at the Mantha deal. That was all reputation right there, and since he got to Washington, he hasn't been the same player at all. So I think just for both outcomes, better hope he can keep producing like this because we really need him to.
Yeah, no, and that's everything that you guys said is correct. One thing that I will say is that I think, we did have Bertuzzi back before the All-Star break, and I do think, like I said in the last episode, you mentioned the rust thing, and I kind of mentioned, I kind of hope that this kind of gets them motivated. This is the well rest that they needed. Players like Bertuzzi, that definitely 100% helped them, and it showed in last night's game, and kind of backing away from Bertuzzi, let's kind of go into the game and kind of break it down. We talked about that first goal, but let's talk about what eventually led to the Red Wings' demise. There was a point in the game in the first where Fabry got a penalty just for throwing Kulak to the ice by the face, just whitewashed him, just slammed him down. And
He
that
got a
caused.
penalty for being too much of a man.
So Fabry got a penalty for that, but if you even went back and watched the play, Kulak pretty much started the whole entire thing with throwing elbows and then like hitting him in the face with his stick. And then even you saw Fabry just like look back at the ref like, dude, you didn't even see that, and then just does his thing, gets the penalty for it. And then the crazy thing is that later on in the game, in the third period, the same exact thing happens to Bertuzzi and no call. So do we hate Edmonton right now? And how much bias is there by the refs, especially playing on ESPN, guys? Leslie?
I wouldn't necessarily say that we hate Edmonton right now. I mean, it was a very chippy game. I kind of feel like with the way the Red Wings are, they're not going to have that genuine, real animosity for a team unless it's through a playoff rounds. That's where rivalries are born and made. So it was definitely a chippy game. I hate Kane, and I'm always going to hate Kane. I've hated him since he was playing on Buffalo. But no, I hesitate to say that I don't like Edmonton just due to the fact that McDavid and Draisaitl play there, and I'm always going to enjoy watching them, and I would love to see them hoist the cup soon. As far as the referees go, I wouldn't really say there's any inherent bias there. I think it's just you're seeing bad officiating, and unfortunately is way too common in today's NHL and really just all sports across the world. So you're always going to have a game where it seems like it's going to be biased towards one team or another, but never attribute bias when incompetence can just be attributed to that.
What about you, Derek? Do you feel like that there's any bias with ESPN and the refs, considering that they favored majority of the time the Edmonton Oilers with all the power plays that they ended up getting? Granted, the Red Wings had the same amount of opportunities and just didn't convert on the power play.
Sweet Jesus, we gotta fix something on our power play, that's for sure. Oh my God, 0-5. What the hell is that? I know they had 1-5, even though they're the best power play in the whole league right now and almost of all time, apparently. Like, Jesus, 0-5. We got to change something up there. But also, just because I'm finally deleting that page off my screen here of Kane's face staring at me after he scored the shutout goal, because I very much don't want to keep looking at that. Fuck Kane right now. Fuck Kane.
Fuck Kane forever, honestly.
Oh, God. Still don't like him. 100% agree with Leslie on that one. But my God. But going back to, there's a little bit of collusion going on. I don't know what that is, because a lot of those calls are just, man, I didn't even see them when I was playing, and we played in the Powder Puff League, basically. Like, we got little kids and that crap, and they wouldn't even call that. Like, oh my gosh. It's just like giving everybody a little blanket to like crawl up in the corner. It's like, come on, just let them play the game of hockey. It's hard, aggressive. Like, don't blow the whistle when the puck's 20 feet away from the red line still. Let it go past the goal line. Straight up still think we have to go back to the old ways where it's fights to the death in the corner to get that icing call. 100%.
Yes.
I don't want anyone to die, but so much more fun.
I agree. No, 100%. Yeah, and Derek, you bring up a good point on the very loose calls, and I'll get to that in a second. But going back to the Fabry power play that he gave to the Edmonton Oilers, that ultimately led them towards the end of that power play, them tying up the game. Then 30 seconds later, they make it 2-1. Now, this is when the refs had a frenzy to call anything and everything against Detroit, who promptly allowed the Oilers to get under their skin the rest of the game. And that's a fact. You clearly saw it out there that there was no one on Detroit's roster other than, you could say, Hronek. Hronek was getting in there, greatly outmuscled, though. Bertuzzi was the only one out there that I recognized that was actually giving the other team some doo-doo. Then, it just really fell off from there. But I do want to keep going on and say the Wings the Wings then eventually fell down 3-1 because of the loosest hook on that Rasmussen had on, I think.
The one that wasn't even a call?
Yes, they originally called it for tripping and then said it was a hooking. I think it was on McDavid, but I could be wrong. But regardless,
McDavid, yeah.
Well, that's why it's a penalty. It's on McDavid. Don't look any
was
further than that.
It was just such a loose hook that I could have stayed on my skates and I didn't even play ice hockey. Like, it was just insane, the amount, and that's kind of part of the reason why I asked that question earlier to you guys. Is there a little bias involved? Because even if you guys look at the standings, in the NHL, Edmonton is now in that first wildcard spot. Who's right behind them? The Colorado Avalanche. Two top teams in the Western Conference that are really trying to get into the playoff spot. So, is it bias? I don't know. That's for you guys to judge. I'm just throwing it out there. I'm the guy who asked the questions, the hard ones at least. But I do want to put this out there as well. The Red Wings were able to get another goal on the board thanks to P.S. Seider, who in fact owns Connor McDavid now at this point.
He owns his
Because
soul.
the Edmonton Oilers were on the power play. P.S. Seider got Connor McDavid onto the half wall, got him knocked down on his butt, dumped the puck. Guess who was there? Seider was there, kind of protected it, waited for the key opportunity and stayed patient on the opposing team's blue line, and then saw Veleno for a great open shot and then scored. So that was really good to see, and I love Seider. And another player, and this is someone that he's been paired with for quite some time now, is Jake Wallman, who still, I can't say this enough, is having such a fantastic season. And both of them in general being on the same line, they're actually top 5 in the league, and they're ranked 5th for expected goals. What was it? Oh, I gotta find it. It was posted by Prashant Iyer on Twitter. It was like that they were top 5 lowest for expected goals against as a pairing in the league. Let me see if I can find it here.
Yeah, I know the stat you're talking about. I
Okay, yeah.
On with that.
Okay, yeah. So
I said the same thing today.
So that's really great to see, and I really hope we just end up keeping Jake Wallman and not trade him at the trade deadline. But
we will.
But I do. Okay, so I did write it down right here. Silly me. He and Seider are top 5 in suppressing 5-on-5 quality chances, which is 1.99 goals against per 60. So that's, I know some of us might not know what that means, but let's just break it down saying that that's really good, and that's a huge difference for someone like Seider, who originally was playing on a line with
everyone's
Ben
favorite,
Schrott, who we haven't even talked about yet, and who seemed pretty unnoticeable during this game. I mean, I saw him on the PK, but
well, Zach, I have to stop you right there. He was very noticeable. It was just not in a good way.
Okay, you got me
a lot.
You got me there, bud. Yes. Okay. But, kind of going on with that, talking about the whole Edmonton thing. Do we hate them? Kane, Nurse, Fogle, Kostin, Kulak all outmuscled the Wings, and Bert really just seemed like the only one to respond. And Sherratt, I saw him get into those scrums a little bit, but just gliding his way in there, not really doing anything. So, is that something that Yzerman should prioritize going into the offseason, is kind of adding a little bit more muscle? I know that he's been wanting to draft and sign bigger players, but is it time that we finally get someone that's like a Kane without the background, or a Nurse, a Kulak, a Fogle, whoever you want to name off? Is that someone that you guys can see that the Red Wings can target this offseason to kind of help out with these issues when they come along?
Yeah, so the thing is with those traditional 4th line grinders is that's almost kind of like a thing in the past, because now in today's NHL you want to get a 4th liner or even a 3rd liner who can not only scrap and be tough, but they also need to produce offensively. I mean, if this was still in the 90s, I'd say yeah, go right ahead and You have Bob Probert go get 4 more, but unfortunately, that's not today's NHL. I honestly think that the type of player you're describing, they already have some guys like that in their system, and the only question is if they're ready or not to take the next step into the NHL. I think from watching like Carter Mazer, even though he plays in the NCAA, which is very, hush hush on the physical side of hockey, he definitely plays up an edge. And honestly, you saw it with Soderblom too. I mean, the guy's a tower on skates. He's like Godzilla. I mean, I think that he also, just based on his size alone, plays with a little bit of edge. And, from what we've seen in GR and the little sample size we've seen in Detroit, I would be surprised if he's not finding himself a full-time role next year. I think that's your tough guy right there.
What about you, Derek? Do you think that's someone that the Red Wings could add as someone with a little bit more muscle, more grit onto the team? Or do you think kind of going with what Leslie said? I know that you don't really know too much about the prospect end, but what's your take on that? Do you think the Red Wings could add some size this offseason?
Well, at least from what I noticed and from watching hockey and playing hockey forever, it's just the best thing to have. You need to have a little bit of a goon on this team. It helps. Like, even if he's not the highest producing player, he can actually be there to at least put intimidation to the other team, be able to knock a body around when, like, that good. Think of McDavid coming down the lane. He just steps in front of them, bulldozers him over, and just walks away from it. That's what everyone likes to see. That gets the team hype. That gets the team, like, endorsed, and makes you want to keep going. It's the fun part of that game, and that gets everyone excited. Do we really need in today's world? I don't know, because you know how all the talent now, everyone's getting smaller too, but at the same time, with the same ratio, everyone's getting smaller. Get someone who's big in there, who has a little bit of speed. I say exactly what probably Matt was going with that one. Someone who can actually hit someone around and actually produce a little bit. You don't got to score every single game or get a point every single game, but at least if you're putting some hits on people, making some plays, definitely will help out the team in the future, especially with the Red Wings, who really don't got that right now.
The only thing that I really say, and I'm hesitant to just put all our chips in on getting like a player who is solely there to just be tough, is what does this team struggle with the most? What's the number one problem? Scoring. They need to score. If they're going to go get someone in free agency, please God get a goal scorer, and not a discount scorer like Kubalik. I mean, I like Kubalik's game, but he's not going to score you 30 or 40 every year. They got to get a goal scoring winger. It's their number one need. You get that guy, and then after that you can worry about adding a tough player. But that, in my mind, is number one priority.
Yeah, and Leslie, at least knows my take on what the Red Wings need to add. I personally think that they truly do need an upgrade on goaltending. I think Husso did play a decent game. At least he looked stellar in the first, and he made a lot of good saves, especially playing against people like Leon Draisaitl and Connor McDavid. I mean, there were quite a few times where you saw McDavid just go in, doopsy dangle on him, and Husso still somehow made those incredible saves on him. And I praise him for that. Trust me, I do. This isn't to hate on Husso, but I do firmly believe that that is something that the Red Wings really, really need to get in this offseason, just to have, a little more time for Kosa to like get ready, because we know that he probably won't be here for another 2 to 3 years at the earliest, but we're not here to talk about that. Let's kind of go on to the next topic. And my next topic is, you brought this up as well, Derek, and this is your first episode that you keep on bringing me to my next topics.
But already, I love it.
I know. But is it time to make a change in the assistant coaching in terms of how bad that the power play has looked this season? And you can even go back as to last season. I mean, 0-for-5 on the power play, that's just unacceptable, especially when you got players like David Perron, who is a power play specialist. You got Dominic Kubalik, who has that rifle of a shot when he is in the Oval Office. So what do you guys think that needs to happen in order for a power play to start being successful? Let's start with Derek.
Staring at the power play lineup right now, it doesn't even look bad on paper. That's the worst part of this right now. I feel like they just got to change up the style of what they're doing. Like, what they're doing right now is just not producing anything for the team. And it's just looking sad. It's almost like they're basically chasing the puck half the time right now, too. And it's like, you got to have control. You got to stop dumping it in right away. Like, dumping it in never a bad idea. It gets you in the zone, makes you force them to make a play. But we're just not producing off that. We're losing the puck, and then they're pushing out of the zone way too quickly. And we don't have any time to actually set up, get anything going. I mean, when we do, it doesn't look too bad, but it's never the most precise. It's a little sloppy here and there, and we just can't produce off it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I also looked at the updated lines this morning, and one thing that stood out to me that was very confusing to me is they have Larkin as the net front center. That makes no sense to me. I don't know why you'd put him there when you have Rasmussen, who literally was a net front center in junior and in the USHL, and when he was drafted, that was literally his number one strength. So to take him and put him anywhere else besides net front makes no sense to me. I think with the power play, it's very confusing to me that we got a coach in Derek Lalonde who came over from Tampa. Of course, he saw a lot of success there, part of 2 Stanley Cups, and we saw all of his tenure with the Lightning how good that power play is. Now, granted, they have a more talented lineup in that power play, but still, it was one of the most dominant power plays in the league. You would think that would translate to the Red Wings, because as you said, Zach, they do have Perron and Kubalik, who are very good power play wingers. Why is it not translating here? I really don't understand it. I think maybe it's a deployment issue, maybe it's a scheme issue. I feel like they've tried so many different things and none of them have worked. So I'm kind of banging my head against the wall trying to figure out what exactly the problem is.
Yeah, you all make very good points. One thing that I will add that no one did yet is that the scheme in general, one thing that I continuously notice, and my buddy Jeff actually said this to me a couple weeks ago, and it didn't really hit me until after he said it to me. And he he said that like his girlfriend's dad always says like they're just too cute with the puck when they're on the power play, and
That's true.
it's very true. There's a lot of passing going on and not enough shooting, and I think that's kind of the issue is that they're trying to force these passes to get to these wingers, these Perrons and these Kubaliks to get those shots off right away once you pass it all the way through one end of the ice to the other, you know? So it's like I think that they need to cut back a little bit on the passing and just start ripping the shots more, you know, and that's partially why I like the whole Wallman up with Seider, and then Wallman actually takes those shots on the blue line, which is nice to see. And that's something that I really don't see too often on the power play, is that our defensive quarterback is not taking enough shots and is just being the puck driver pretty much the whole time, which he does need to be that, but I also need to see them shoot the puck. You know,
Yeah,
and that
A garbage goal is a garbage goal. It works.
no, I totally get that, and I'm all for it. You know, that's what wins you games is getting goals. You know, that's how you put points up on the board. But kind of like what Leslie said, you know, it is very odd that they're not putting Rasmussen in the net front, considering that's what he did in juniors. That's what he did. That's one of the reasons why Ken Holland drafted him in the first place is because he thought that he was going to be the next Thomas Holmstrom.
Mm-hmm.
For real,
That's what we all said.
that's
Yeah.
what he said. That this is something that the Red Wings are missing, and that is something that he did when he was in the Q.
No, he was in the USHL. Or was he in the queue? Maybe he was
He
in
was
the queue. Stand
He
by.
was in the Q. We'll stand by the Q. So yeah, regardless, you know, but that was his game. He was mostly a PowerPoint goal scoring guy who was always in the net front and being able to be in front of that goalie and tuck the puck into the net. So it is very confusing not being able to see him out there. I agree with you. You know, and there is one thing that I did notice. I did notice that they took Kubalik off the top power play unit as well. And to be honest with you, I think it's about time considering that we need I know that I said that we're passing the puck a little bit too much, but and what Derek said, you know, you're kind of getting out of the zone a little too much. I mean, all of their power plays from last night's game, they probably got knocked out of the zone in each power play at least 3 times. So I can't tell you how many times that they actually stuck in the opposing zone attacking for more than 20 seconds at a time. And that's a huge issue. They're not able to cycle the puck. They're not able to get these passes off. Just start shooting the freaking puck. Start scoring goals. and that's how you're gonna get the dubs.
I think
Hey,
you're bang on with the fact that they pass too much. I think it's even more than that. I think it's just when a certain player has the puck on their stick, they're not thinking about the next move that they want to do with that puck. I can't tell you how many times I've seen a power play start and there's, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 passes. Someone finally gets it in the slot and they shoot, and it's either blocked or it's saved. And it, the only way I can really describe it is they go into panic mode. They're like, fuck, plan A didn't work. What are we supposed to do? We got to get the puck before it goes out of the zone. Oh my God, get the puck, pass it to someone, and no one's there. And it goes out the zone, or it goes to someone else's stick, and worst case scenario is a shorthanded goal. I have seen that maybe on more than 50% of power plays. It happens every single time. I think they just overthink it, and they don't think that maybe let's pass it to Mo. He can shoot it from the quarterback position, look for a tip, or get it to your wingers, who are power play specialists, have them shoot. I think they just overthink it. They try to make it, like you said, too cute, because maybe they think, I don't know, the other team knows that we're going to try and pass it here or here, and they're going to shoot there. Let's try something different. Just keep it simple, stupid. I think if they just adhere to that mantra, I think it'll get better.
you make a good point, and almost kind of you didn't really say this, but you kind of opened up my mind a little bit because it's almost kind of like they're like a one-trick pony almost, where they don't have the different kinds of power play um plays to kind of confuse the opposing team. So teams are already locked in on their power play because they only know one way on how to produce on the power play, right? Is by getting those guys that are in those oval offices to rip those 1Ts or get those wrist shots off quickly, But another thing that I want to talk about the power play, what the hell is up with them? And I know that this is different from last season where they would just do the dump and chase, but what the hell is the whole pass it back to the trailer and let Larkin take it up into the zone when everyone's just standing on the freaking blue line? That just grinds my gears to the max, and I don't understand that whatsoever, especially when you have like Seider or Hronik starting with the puck and then you just turn around, pass it to Larkin, and then he just kind of skates in and then someone's attacking him, and then there you go. They're pretty much on a breakaway, and then the transition is just very weird. And that's kind of why I don't think it's a Lalone thing, going to your point, Leslie.
No,
I
it's
think
not.
it's more so the assistant coaching, like I brought up in the question. And that kind of goes towards Alex Tanguay.
Yeah, I
Because
was
he
just
was the
about to
one who
say
took
that's.
over as the power play guy even last season when
Uh,
Jeff Blashill was still the coach.
yeah,
And that was the thing,
that's
at
what
the
I was
start of
going
the
to touch
season,
on.
the power play looked phenomenal, much like it did at the start of this season. And then all of a sudden, it just started going down and down and down. So, like I said, it kind of sort of feels like that they're only a one-trick pony on the power play. Sometimes it works, but majority of the time so far that we're seeing throughout this season, it's not working. And something's got to change about that. So that's why I brought up the question. Do you think the change comes from the coaching? And do we have to move on and get a new assistant coach to help out with that power play?
It's kind of ironic that you say that they're a one-trick pony because you know who else is a one-trick pony on the power play? The Washington Capitals of Ovechkin, the Tampa Bay Lightning with Steven Stamkos. You could be a one-trick pony if you have a bona fide goal scorer who's going to score on the power play. But to what you said with the coaching, I really don't want to lay it on one person's feet. I don't want to lay all the blame there, but I for as
You're
long
right.
as Tangay's been here, the power plays looked atrocious. I I don't really know what else you can say. I mean, I really hesitate to point figures, but there's a common denominator here with this, and unfortunately, it's Tangay. So I know he's Eiserman's guy. I don't know if he worked with him before with the Lightning, but clearly they have a connection. So
Uh, yeah, I think so. I think yes, he was an assistant coach at for an AHL club, I believe. Oh, geez, don't quote me on this. The Minnes, the no, the who is it? The Minnesota, Iowa
the Iowa
affiliate
Wild,
team, whatever. Yeah,
the
whoever it is.
okay,
I believe he came from there,
okay,
and then he ended up coming here. So that's
that's interesting.
Eiserman's guy. You're right in that sense.
That's where
And then
Malone came from too.
correct. And then
Yeah,
Lalone was the one who brought I don't know who the other assistant coach is, but that's usually how it works though. The GM gets one guy and then the coach gets their guy. So far it doesn't really seem like that it's Lalone his guy. It seems like it is Yzerman's guy. But those are the risks that Yzerman has been taking ever since he came in as GM for the last 3 years. He's going for high ceiling, low floors. Is that a recipe for disaster?
Not if it hits.
Yeah. Yes and no. I mean, he's had hits, but we've definitely had some lows for sure.
I mean, when you have 3 2-on-1s in the power play in one game, it shows a little bit of a low there.
And that's not a one-time thing.
That's another thing that the Red Wings had a lot of opportunities in this game, was a lot of breakaway opportunities. Granted, there were players that were kind of on them or a little bit behind them, but who was it? Kubalik had one where there was a call on him when he drove into the penalty. Berggren had a breakaway and he got gloved nicely by the goaltender. It was who's in Jack Campbell. And then there was one where Fabry just completely whiffed and it hit the post and like
oh my god.
It just Rick open net and everything and he couldn't get it in.
So to be honest, like I said, their 5-on-5 was phenomenal, and overall, had the Red Wings converted on some of those, I do think that this game would have been closer, and it did kind of have a playoff vibe. I'm not gonna lie, like you said, Derek, it was an overall good game, but it sure as hell was very frustrating to see them score twice on us within the fucking 36 seconds that it was. Part of
that one hurt. That one hurt morale pretty bad.
Yeah.
I wanted to touch on that whole sequence and just like the way that I think it was the first goal in that sequence started, because you guys know that I really don't want to criticize these players too much. They're professional hockey players, and I'm some scrub sitting on my computer in my house twice a week. But my God, what is Sherrod doing on the ice? Genuinely, what is he doing? So I think it was the first goal, which was from Ryan McLeod, where there was a little bit of like a neutral zone breakdown, and Edmonton's rushing up with the puck. So the Edmonton player is going towards the net, and Sherratt is the one who's covering McLeod, who is kind of the trailer behind him. And there's 2 Red Wings going after the guy with the puck. I don't know who had the puck, but 2 Red Wings are going after the guy with the puck. Sherratt, all of a sudden, for whatever reason, decides 2 players is enough. Let me blow my assignment and activate my meathead brain and go like a freight train to the puck. Just leaves McLeod wide open. The player sees him back there. Hey, there's an open guy. This is an easy scoring chance. Boop. Passes it right back. Tape to tape. McLeod's got it. Ville Husto is hung out to dry. He's looking at him like, please, no, don't do me like this. And guess what, guys? He does him like that, and he scores. And you want to know why? Because Sherratt did it again. Our $4.75 million defenseman blew another assignment. I mean, this guy, I don't know I know why he was signed. I don't know why he was signed for that money. I guess it was the market, but still, it's a terrible deal. This guy has, like, negative hockey IQ. I don't even really know what to say. I actually saw on Twitter today, and I tried to retweet it, but Twitter was just apparently breaking down.
Broken.
So I can't give them credit, but I saw a take that was really funny. Someone said, Sherratt plays hockey like an offensive lineman. And that could not be more spot on.
Attack the puck.
I can't believe it. Was the market really that bad for a defenseman? We had to go with this guy. Like, I understand he brings the physical side of the game to this team, and that's something they really haven't had for a while with their defensemen. And it was also Lalonde a couple days ago who said why he was on the second pair. And it was basically just like he brings an element of toughness. It really had nothing to do with defense. He loved the toughness in his game, the grit in his game. It would be really nice if he could play some defense and just stop blowing assignments. And it was also really funny. His partner was Hronek, and Hronek just completely fell on the ice. He was like mashing all the buttons, trying to stop him from scoring. It was inevitable, though. So that's it. Rant over. I'll send the floor to you.
Derek, I don't know if you have anything to say, but jumping onto what you said about the free agent market on why we ended up signing Sherratt. So I'm just going to break down the list of the free agent defensemen that were last.
I know it wasn't very good.
No, it was it was slim picking. So Ben Sherratt, who we have, Nick Leddy, who we had, Eric Goodbranson, Brett Kulak, who pretty much dummied us the
Yep.
whole entire game, Jan Ruda, Nikita Zadorov, John Klingberg, Justin Schultz, Ilya Labushkin, and then you got like Matthew Benning, Colin Miller, Ian Cole, and then Joshua Brown. Then you have Ole Mata there. So at least we got Ole Mata. You know
I
who
heard
else
like
was a
5
free
guys I'd
agent?
never have.
You know who else was a free agent? And I'm sorry to give you guys PTSD. Chenis Chalowski.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Cholo.
no.
Hello, friend. Welcome to misery.
I'd rather have Chalowski. I'm not even kidding. My God.
Oh, yeah.
I'm a
So
little
he's
kidding. I take that back. Actually, I don't.
so it says here that he actually he played with Seattle and now he's
He's with the Islanders now.
yeah, he's with the New York Islanders. That's what it says. That's so it sounds like he's been jumping around a little bit in the league. I mean, good for him, but that's a player that I kind of wish, he was supposed to be Horonic in a sense, and I wish it worked out with him, but that's another conversation that we'll have in a later episode, but hot damn, Ken Holland really put this team in a mess, and it really sucks. And like the one player that I really feel bad for is Dylan Larkin in that sense, because he's the one who's been through the most suffering like this whole entire time. Before I go off on a rant, Derek, did you have anything to say about anything else that like Leslie touched on?
No, I love Leslie's rant there. It was pretty spot on, actually.
It was all from the heart.
I was pissed off at him last night. I was like, what do I got to say? I'm like, oh, absolutely nothing. I got a Leslie here. We're good.
The other funny thing about it is like right after that goal, he was standing there at the net going like this. Just watching it go in. He watched it just.
That translates great in podcast.
Like, yeah, buddy, that was your fault. Stop doing fucking assignments. But we can move on.
Yeah, so we really don't have too much to talk about other than, we talked about how the game ended up becoming 3-2, and then Edmonton pretty much just scored again, and then that's when all hell pretty much broke loose when there was like 6 minutes left in the game, and then Red Wings pulled their goalie.
Oh, I was hoping for that extra penalty. Oh my God, when he nailed that guy going to the bench. Oh, thank you. Yeah. That made me happy. I knew it was a flop, but
I did forget about that. That did happen at the end of the game. Do you know what happened with that? Because I did actually miss that part, and then I heard ESPN say like, "Oh yeah, they hit Husso." Like, who was it that hit Husso when he was? And why did they hit him? Was he like still in the net, or was he going to the bench?
No, he was skating to the bench already with a penalty called, and they thought they called another penalty on him trying to skate off to get the extra guy, but no, it was for the penalty originally, and he just ran into I can't remember who it was, one of the other forwards on Oilers, but it looked like a beautiful flop. It would not have gotten away with anything.
Considering that Edmonton did a lot of those throughout the whole entire game, but I digress. And, I don't really have anything else to go over on the game, but it looks like we do have a little bit more time, right, Leslie?
Yeah, we got some time.
Okay, for sure. So, let's go ahead and just talk about the next games. Our next game is going to be on Thursday against the Flames. Then on Saturday, there's a noon game against Vancouver at home, which I'm actually trying to go to since it's Kenny's birthday next week, and he's trying to get everyone to go downtown. So I think that would be really cool to go do. Derek, Leslie, if you guys can go, that would be cool.
Happy birthday,
Tickets are a little expensive, but we'll try to work it out. We'll see. Who knows?
See what happens.
For Ken Doba's birthday, man. We got to show up for the homie. But yeah, once again, overall, I thought the Wings played a really good game, 5-5, and staying on pace with the Oilers, but the penalties obviously just caught up to them at the end of the day, and that's just part of the game. I don't like I said, I don't have anything else to talk about on this game. Final thoughts, anyone, before we go on to our next pick?
Yeah, I kind of do have some final thoughts, and I don't really want to be like the negative one here on this pod, but
hey, someone's got to put it out there. This is what we're here for. We got to talk about the tough stuff.
Enough people on Twitter put it out for me, so I feel like I don't need to, but I'm gonna do it anyways.
Yes, sir.
So I understand that, I'll start off on a positive note. Seider, he keeps just continuing to blow blow people out of the water or the ice. I guess they play on ice, so that's more appropriate. But he's such a good player. I mean, that pass to set up Vrana for that goal, which by the way, I watched the highlights. He just came right off the bench and did that. So that's some big dick check. I like that. So, but yeah, he's our franchise 1D. I won't hear any arguments against it. I feel like we were kind of robbed of what he could possibly be this season, just seeing him with Sherratt. I think that he could, honestly, this might be a bit of a hot take, but he might be putting up some Norse numbers, to be honest. I mean, he's really just continuing to take steps forward. Now, I will say that I've been an Andrew Kopp defender. I know there's a lot of people being very critical of him, and he is still recovering from a major injury and a surgery.
It's me. I'm the one who does it.
Yeah, I know. Well, I try not to, but it was hard not to notice how bad he was tonight. I mean, that tip in for the third goal, I don't know what the hell he was doing. I think maybe he had a mental breakdown and thought he was playing for the Oilers at one time. I don't really know what his thought process was there. And I did see him take a shot. I think it might have been Mo who set him up. And I'm not kidding you, boys. I think if you had a speed radar on that shot, it would read 20 miles an hour. It was like the littlest feather tap of a shot I've ever seen, but he's recovering from surgery. I actually think he has some decent numbers, but he has kind of struggled with his defense, which is kind of unfortunate. We brought him in to be a reliable two-way number 2 center, so I don't know. I just had to touch on that and just point that out.
And I want to follow up with you on that because you make a really good point. And to put this out there, granted, plus minus really doesn't mean anything because if you play with a bad team, everyone's going to be in that minus, right? So I'm not going to count that, but he was a -1, 1 shot on goal, 2 block shots, 1 giveaway, 1 takeaway. Guess what his face-off percentage was?
Like 30%?
Not even close. 11 freaking percent.
Oh boy!
Oh Jesus Christ! 1 for 10. Damn.
Yeah, and that's been a struggle for him this whole entire season. He is not good on the faceoffs. He gets 16 minutes a night, and then he gets the PK minutes. So that's something. He's good on the defensive end. That's great. But I also need a 2C to be scoring. You know, that's what people are complaining about Larkin is that he's not putting up the point production. He's doing better than Kopp is. Oh, well, he's not making Larkin money. Well, I don't know what to frickin' tell you, man. Be better at negotiating, then you get more money. I don't know. But yeah, no, you're right. I mean, yeah, I've been the Kopp hater, and I try not to be because you're right. That surgery, whatever, he missed a lot of time. He's still trying to catch up. But how much longer can we say that when it's almost been 50 games in the season? Eventually, he's got to figure it out, right? And that's where I kind of hope that maybe next year he kind of picks it up. Second year in the season, you're familiar with the system, you're familiar with the players. Get this stuff cracking. Get to work, put up the points, do the defense, do whatever you got to do to start winning these games. Win the faceoffs.
Yeah, I actually think this last second half of the season, for the first 20 games, he was abysmal, and I gotta admit I wasn't really defending him back then. I think he's definitely improved a little bit. I think he's got his speed back. But yeah, he's probably, if I had to pick one guy to break out next year, it would probably be him. I know that he's recovering from a pretty major surgery. And I think it was even Lalonde who was talking about Steven Stamkos in one of his pressers that when Stamkos had that same, I think it might have been the same surgery or same injury, it took him almost 9 months to get back to speed. So this is not really an easy fix. So I would say, for me, I think he's going to maybe not break out, but he'll bounce back and round back out into form next year. At least I hope so, because we really need it. But
well, that's the crazy thing too, and I'm sorry to cut you off, but that's the crazy part of it too, is that, and I'll even pull it up, but the last time I checked, he was on pace to beat his record from all of the previous seasons that he played in the NHL. So granted, yeah, the point production is coming along, but in the same token, okay, here it is. So he's on pace. Okay, it's definitely decreased in 82 games. So he's projected to play a full season, 82 games, 43 points.
Yeah, I mean, I just feel like when you're coming off that surgery, you're gonna have a down year.
That's just a step above what PS Suter did for us last year. And we're paying him a lot more money. But yes, I agree that the surgery, the muscle core thing, Derek probably knows a little bit more than we do in terms of like recovery and getting back into game shape and all that. And it probably does take time. And I don't doubt that the Steven Stamkos did take 9 months, but that's also the luxury of playing for a team that has all these other great talented players on it too, where we don't have that luxury. So maybe it would have been better if we had Cop waited out an extra week or two to kind of get into game shape instead of just inserting him into the lineup right away.
That probably would have
But
been the best thing to do.
I'm not a coach. I'm not a GM. I'm just the guy who talks to a computer screen and my friends,
Yep.
like Leslie said.
That's all we are. At the end of the day, that's all we are. We're scrubs.
Was that the end of your topics, though? Is that your final thoughts?
That's the end of my negativity, yeah.
Eric, you got any final thoughts on the game last night or anything?
Well, I'll definitely be the ray of sunshine at the end of this beat, just because I look at the numbers and all this, and staring at the numbers right now, the Red Wings are just doing so much better than they have the last 6 years combined. It looks like we're above 50% right now, barely. I can tell you that much, but it's just a slow climb back up to where we were back in 2008 or 2012, when back in that day when we had all the legends still. We make it to playoffs every year. Right now, we're probably not going to squeak in like I was hoping we would, but at the same time, next year looks like a bright and brand new year. That means that we're just going to get better, probably going to get couple new players in there. And like we said, just get someone who can actually produce a little bit, get Larkin back up there like I was talking to you about, Zach, that we just got to get him up to that point where he's a point-per-game player again. And we should be starting off in a good league. I mean, I feel like by the end of the year, as long as everyone's healthy, back to where they're supposed to be, we should be putting up some good numbers. I mean, it won't do what we need it to do right now, what we wish, but it'll look good for next year.
No, I agree 100%. And my final thought for the game, I just want to end on this note because I'm the guy who's pushing for Larkin to get that 9 mil. I want him to get the bag because I understand that this is his last opportunity to actually make as much as he possibly can. Larkin had a really good game. His Corsi 4 was 100%, much like Raymond and Bertuzzi. They were actually, and believe it or not, McDavid and Draisaitl both were in the 30% for the Corsi 4. So,
yeah.
So Dylan Larkin's better than Connor McDavid?
It's confirmed. You heard it here first.
But I do want to ruffle some feathers with some fans who are listening that might not like that as much. But I just want to leave it out there that Larkin did get an assist. He had 4 shots throughout the whole entire night. His face-off percentage was 65%. That's really good. He played almost 22 minutes last night. He had 6 minutes on the power play and 4.5 on the PK. He is, by definition, the best player and overall your number 1 center on this team. I don't care what anyone says. You cannot discount him for what he is doing and what he has done for this team. If you believe that $9 million is truly going to affect this team down the line, go look and see what the cap's going to be in 3 years. It's going up almost $10 million. Is that guaranteed? No, but that's estimated at least. And I want people to understand that if you're going to compare him to a player that signed their contract before COVID, that puts up more points than Larkin now, I want you to realize that those GMs that signed those contracts were also hoping for the cap to go up. It has stayed stagnant for the last 3 years. So yes, that money right now seems high, and it is. I would love for Larkin to sign 8 mil. But I don't think that we can just sit here and say this is too much for Larkin, and we can't pay him that when he's going to eventually step down from the 1C and be a 2 or a 3C. In regards to that, I think that's why you pay him that, is because not only are you paying him to be your leadership guy, your captain, whatever, but you're having him for his hockey IQ. That man is so smart on the ice that he knows how to be in the spots to produce and find the players to finish the goals for him. If that's what it comes down to.
Yeah,
That's my take.
I hear what you're saying on the 9 million number. I don't really know why people think that 9 million is like so groundbreaking expensive. Like we're not strapped for cash on this team. Like 9 million, it might be a bit of an overpayment, but it's not going to kneecap us with a cap. I mean,
That's the other thing too. Yeah, that
yeah.
I didn't touch. But continue. Yeah, sorry.
But I'm almost at the point where this has been such a saga for really the entire season and even a little bit of last season, where at this point I just want to see him put pen to paper. And whatever the money is, I'll just worry about it later. I'll just be happy that
Yeah.
he's signed and we have Dylan Larkin for 8 more years. That's where I land on it at this point. I think a lot of people's argument is you don't want to overpay him too much because you still have to pay, your Raymonds and your Seiders. And I know I've said it on previous episodes, but the difference of those guys is when they come off their contracts, they'll be RFA. So they're going to be a lot more cost controlled. So you can expect to see the same deals that like Dylan Cousins or who else was signed recently as a winger?
Was a deal.
Matt Boldy, which I think
Yeah.
came in at around or just under 7 million. I think that's going to be the Raymond number. As for the Seider, it may be a little bit more. I'm kind of struggling to draw a comparison from that because I can't really think of any like defensemen of his caliber that have been signed recently coming off an entry contract, but it's not going to be like 10 million. Could that be what he's making when he's 26 or 27? Yeah, maybe. And the way his game is looking, fuck, he probably should be making that much money. But yeah, I'm in the camp now where what okay, so what's worse? Is it worse to overpay Larkin slightly by just 1 million or maybe 500K, or is it worse to lose him in free agency for zilch? Which one's worse?
And I think that's when people are going to, and I'm sorry if you were going to answer that question, Derek,
No, I
but I
wanted
just,
you to answer it. I wanted
Sorry.
someone to answer it.
yeah, I'm going to jump on real quick and just say that if that's the thing, right, is that like, that's the question that you're going to have to start asking people is once you get past the trade deadline and he isn't traded. So like, are you going to now give him that 9 mil or are you just going to let him walk because that's what's going to happen being a UFA? He has that freedom. He has that right. Do I think he wants to leave? I truly do not think that he wants to leave. And I can see a situation where it's going to end up like Stamkos and maybe Larkin will bite the bullet and just kind of take a cheaper cap than what he originally wanted. But still, I'm still on the boat where I can't just lose him for nothing because we've seen that happen with other teams, and I don't think we're just not in the luxury or scenario where that's a realistic scenario for us in general. What do you think about that, Derek?
Honestly, well, straight up, I just don't want to lose him in general. I believe he, like, where he's at right now in his career and where he's attaining and what he's done, he's probably the next Steve Yzerman. And I believe Yzerman himself doesn't want to lose him either. And I can definitely see, just because of how much he wants to stay in Detroit, how much he loves the team and what he's done for it already, he doesn't want to leave. And the fact that if he did, the morale boost for the team would just shoot straight down. You just lost the guy that's been trying to help you build up over the last 6-7 years. Like, you don't want to lose that person right now. And especially the fact that he's as good as a player as he is, that he can bounce back and he's going to be there for the be able to do that what he's doing for the next 5 years, 6 years, no matter what. And it'll be the same way all around. Why would you want to lose that? Pay him 9 mil, keep him happy. I mean, honestly, he'll probably take a cut just because he is who he is and he wants to keep the team where it's at. He'll probably just do it out of just pure ethics. Like, he just seems like that kind of a guy right now, that he's going to throw himself under the bus a little bit to help the rest of the team still, even though he did that, 5 years ago, 6 years ago now? Like, he'll do it again pretty easily, I feel like, for the team, just as much he cares for it. That's why I like him so much.
I think he's going to do it now more so than when he signs the last contract, because I think he knows that from what we've seen from this team, like Derek alluded to it earlier, with their points percentage, they're only trending up. I think he sees that trend and is saying, you know what? If I take a little bit less, I think that Yzerman can go out and he can get some guys that are going to be very available to our run, and maybe we could build something here. Maybe we could contend for playoffs in a couple years. Maybe we could put together some runs, maybe steal around. Maybe we could, in 5 or 6 years, look like a cup contender team. You never know. So I think it just comes down to the point where if he thinks that how do I want to put this? I think it comes down to if he sees a path on another team where he can go and get a Stanley Cup, maybe he goes for that. I just think he wants to be in Detroit. And I was listening to 32 Thoughts, and Elliot Friedman brought up a really good point. What team out there can you see Larkin wanting to play for more than the Red Wings? Out of the 31 other teams, what other team out there do you think he wants to play for? None of them. I don't think it's any of them. So I think at the end, Yzerman's going to get his guy for what price he wants to give him. Larkin's going to stay where he wants to stay. Everyone's going to be happy. Zach doesn't have to argue with people on Twitter anymore. We can all take care of our mentals. And Red Wings Cup in 2030. I'm calling it right now.
Oh, Jesus.
I wasn't going to bring that up on the pod, but yeah, I had the luxury of someone taking their own personal time out of their day to privately message me in my Twitter inbox and start harassing me about how great Dylan Larkin looked last night. And he was definitely trying to rip on me. And I was like, the guy literally has an assist. The guy has 4 shots on that. The guy has over 20 minutes played. He has 6 minutes on the power play. He has 4.5 on the PK. What more are you like? What do you want from him? Like, what do you want? And he's like, well, it's a secondary assist. Someone's got to start to play, my dude. I don't really know what to tell you anymore.
Not everyone is Connor McDavid that can chip in 3 points a night. And by the way, he only got 1.2. So why aren't we talking about that?
And it wasn't even a goal.
No, it was not. It was a secondary assist, just like Larkin.
So let's kind of end it there, but I do want to end off tonight's episode with one last question, and this is a pretty simple question for you guys. You know, with these 2 next games before our next episode, what are you guys hoping to see out of the Red Wings going against the Flames and the Vancouver Canucks?
Wins.
Oh, definitely wins. Oh my God, that'd be such a boost to us right now, especially against the Flames, who've been on a hot streak.
Wins all around.
Now, I did also want to bring up one other thing. So
sure.
I did see on Twitter, let me pull up the guy's name. So on Twitter, Nick Alberga, I've never heard of this guy before in my life, but according to him, Jacob Vrana has already played his last game for Detroit, and it looks likely that this is going to end in a buyout, and he's going to pursue other interests. So I just got to ask, with all the circumstances surrounding him going into the player assistance program, and just the whole fact that when you go in there, it's very hush-hush, and nobody besides Jacob Vrana himself and people very close to him know what he's going through. So how come all of a sudden we get all of these reports coming out that Jacob Vrana is done in Detroit, he wants out? Where are people getting this from?
You gotta make something up.
Yeah,
like I guess so. Slow news day, I guess, huh?
It's just for the clickbait, you know what I mean? And that's the thing that I'm trying to like put out there on this pod, is that I understand what people are saying, where they're come from, but there's just so much fake energy and news out there that I don't buy any of it. And I'm very much on that with the whole like Yzerman wants 8 and Larkin wants 9. To be honest with you guys, I'm not even buying that, because do you know how much information that Yzerman lets out? 0.
Yeah.
Every single.
You know how much Larkin lets out? Zero too. Like, what? There's nothing. I've searched everywhere to find something on what might happen. Everywhere you click on, it's like, oh, let's see what happens here. You click on it, it's like Dylan Larkin saying, I'm not saying anything about this right now. It's like, it's everywhere.
All right, fair enough.
No one knows anything.
I bet you his girlfriend doesn't even freaking know anything. And I bet you his dog does. And that's a freaking cute-ass dog that he's got, too.
His dog's adorable. I had one more note on Larkin. Maybe he's just got like his eye on a nice mansion out in St. Clair Shores, overlooking the lake, overlooking Cass Lake, or not Cass Lake. What is it called? Jesus. Line. What's it called? Lake St. Clair. Maybe he wants a very nice house overlooking Lake St. Clair. I know those are pretty pricey because I go on Zillow sometimes to look at houses I can't afford. Maybe that's what he wants. And maybe that house is, I don't know, $4 million. And Larkin's saying, well, maybe you want to make 9 so I don't blow all my money on a new house.
I go on Zillow to look at houses I can't afford.
Do we not all do
Just
this?
to remind myself I'm poor.
Yeah, I'm not the only one who's liable for this. Who's guilty of doing that. But that was
All
my
right.
last little note on Larkin.
So going back to the finishing question. So we're all in favor of wins, correct? But I kind of want to hear a little bit more from you guys. Not so much I want to hear a rant, but kind of like what are you guys kind of hoping to see other than wins? Are you kind of hoping for a specific player to kind of like catch up a little bit? Are you, for me personally, I'll start off with this. I really want to see Zadina at least play one of
Yeah.
the two games.
I
And
was
I don't
Oh
know
my
hoping to.
god. Oh, we
what
didn't even touch on that topic. Whew. He
you know
didn't
what?
play. Healthy scratch.
Let's take the 5 to 10 minutes to actually talk about it because I do want to touch on that because who was it? It was the Grand Line podcast. Shout out to them for actually touching base on it, that the whole situation that happened after the All-Star game was actually really weird, right? Because they sent Bergeron down to go play in the AHL while the All-Star game was going on, right? So they had that extra roster room when Zadina was already on the team. When you're on conditioning stint, you're technically still on the Red Wings roster, right?
Mhm.
So it's very weird that they sent Bergeron down, called him back up, waived Ernie, and then they didn't even play Zadina. It's like, what was even the point of that? So you're willing to let Zadina sit and watch all the other players skate and play, then rather have him actually get meaningful minutes to get game ready and in game shape. And you're just letting Adam Ernie go do it. So what's the whole purpose in that? Why was that even a move?
Yeah, that was a very confusing move to me, and I didn't even realize he wasn't playing until I opened up the fantasy app because I was wondering, oh, I haven't seen
Yeah.
Zadina all night, and he played 0 minutes.
I knew this that morning because I watched the presser that they posted up on YouTube on the Red Wings page, and Lalone said that yeah, it's a coach's decision. We're just gonna keep him as a healthy scratch. We're just gonna let him, just kind of get back into like practice shape with us. And it's like, why didn't you just keep him in AHL? What's the point? Because if you're just sitting Adam Ernie, like I already said it, but like it just really doesn't make any sense to me. What do you think on that, Derek?
I mean, I get it just because there's. I mean, you have a broken leg, you got a broken leg. You can't do too much about that. I mean, what was that? November he broke his leg.
I think,
What do you?
yeah, maybe it was November.
I mean, like what? 3 months later, and I probably honestly, even if you are producing down in the AHL, I probably would still give you some time, even at his age. But at the same time, well, I just can't see many reasons other than them that they're just trying to keep him healthy right now, or they're trying to keep him healthy for another reason that I don't want to happen.
Yeah, the only other reason I can think of is that maybe Lalone knew going into the game that it was going to be a very heavy, this isn't the correct term that I want to use, heavy hitting game. Bodies flying around, everyone's throwing the knuckles around, everyone's just tossing bodies left and right. So you make a good point there that maybe he just wanted to make sure that he stayed healthy because he's only played 9 games this season and he was a healthy scratch at the start of the season. So he missed the first 2 games, plays 9, no points, gets injured, and then you're scratching him again. It's like, why are you guys just playing merry-go-round with this guy when this is the guy that a lot of fans, still me especially, had the hopes that eventually he could go back to being, not that he ever was, but I want him to be that 15 to 20 goal scoring guy. We need him to be out on the ice because, and this might blow your guys' mind a little bit, and I didn't realize this until today as well. He's already 23 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And he's got 2 more seasons left with the team on a cheap cap. And I'm hoping within these next 2 years that somewhere down the line it just clicks and we have our goal scorer that we hoped that we got 5 years ago.
And that's totally possible. There's such a thing as late bloomers. I mean, look at Troy Terry last year and this year. Look at Tage Thompson the last 2 years. Some
Yep.
players hit their ceilings at different times. Now that you actually said that, Zach, that he didn't want to go into like a high scoring, physical game, that makes a lot of sense to me. I would be interested to see if he plays against Calgary and Vancouver because those are, as far as NHL talent goes, a little bit of less caliber teams. And maybe Lalone thinks that, okay, Edmonton maybe is not the best game to just throw him right into the fire. Let's try and get some weaker teams on the schedule and see if he can showcase a little bit of his talent. Because I really think the Red Wings are trying to be very careful with this kid and hoping that he can be healthy for a full season next year. And who knows, maybe next year is his breakout season. You never know. It's also equally possible that this is just what he is. So we won't know unless he plays. So hopefully we can see that from him.
Well, I think that's about time that we wrap it up. I think we kind of spewed enough nonsense onto this episode today. So yeah, let's kind of end it here. I want to say a big thank you to Derek for hopping on the pod today, very first episode.
Thanks,
and
Derek.
we can have you again in the future. I loved having you on the show. I'm sure Leslie did as well.
Yeah, more than Zach.
Yeah. We like to have guests on the pod. We'll have some other people on the pod as well. But Derek, feel free to let us know whenever you want to hop back on. I hope we didn't scare you too much or get you too nervous. But I thought you did really well today, buddy, and thank you for hopping on once again.
Of course, you guys. Whenever you want me back on, I'll be here just to speak some more random BS that I barely know about. I got you.
That's what the two of us do too. So don't feel bad about it,
everybody. Yep, like I told you before, that's what we do. It's just all for fun. We're just here to say our piece, let people agree with us, not agree with us, whatever they want. It's all good and fun with us. That's why we're here. So
whether you agree or disagree, please just be kind.
Yeah. Leave it in the comments
section.
What do you think of the episode today? Don't forget to smash that like button, hit the subscribe button, leave the notifications on, and we'll see you in the next episode here on Hockeytown University Podcast. And roll with us today. See you, everyone.